Hey there, voters. The general election is really getting close now. You joined us for the latest segment of Candidate Chat. I'm Santa Fe reporter editor Julianne Grimm, and today I'm here with Judge Miles Hanisee of the New Mexico Court of Appeals and with attorney Kerry Kiernan, who would also like to fill that position. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to start with you, Miles. You are a Republican, and you were appointed to this position by a Republican governor, but you've talked a lot about how you don't want this to be a partisan kind of contest in the future. Can you share your thoughts about that?
Well, I've written and I've spoken around the state about the need to rid partisanship from judicial selection. There's no more position than judge that is apolitical. There's nothing about being a judge that makes me a Republican or Mr. Kiernan, if he were to be elected, a Democrat. It just doesn't belong there. And I think we need to move to the consensus of other states, away from partisan models of picking judges. There's only 7 states left for the upper judiciary that do it that way. And by upper judiciary, I mean Court of Appeals or Supreme Court level spots, only 7 of them. And I think that New Mexico ought to look to a more progressive model that says these are apolitical jobs. The public responsibilities have nothing at all whatsoever to do with being a Republican or a Democrat, and pick our judges based exclusively on merit.
But Kerry, you feel a little differently, am I right?
I think that's fair to say. The people of New Mexico have put this in place since 1988 as part of their constitution. And as you know, there's a 2-pronged system. There's the appointment process, and then the person has to run in a partisan election. I would argue that the election process is the second step of the political process, but the first step is the governor's appointment. I think that obviously is inherently political in nature. The governor's a political creature, and it's any governor, not just this governor, any governor. And I think the benefit of the partisan election is it's the one time that a judge can get out and actually meet the people, interact with the people, and tell people what the qualifications that he or she possesses are, so that the people can put a name to these judges. We know that the judge position is critical in our society, and it's the one opportunity people get to actually, if you will, interview their judges and then make, since this is a democracy, their electoral choice. So I'm very much for the system in place, and I'm not going to second guess the people of New Mexico and seek to have that system reversed. But I think it's very good because, as you know, judges are very isolated typically. After they get into office, all they have to do is run for a retention election after they're chosen in a partisan election, and they're removed from the people. So this is a great opportunity to meet those people.
And you've been through the bipartisan nominating committee process?
Yes, I was chosen along with my opponent in 2011. Yeah, and our names went up to the governor.
And you feel like that process is also part of this 2-pronged approach?
Well, that's the first prong, if you will. And frankly, I think there's a political dimension to it. The governor is, at the apex of the political tree in New Mexico, and there's that dimension to it, and then there's the partisan dimension to it. So in my view, there is politics in the system, but my view is that that's part of our democracy currently that the people have put in place.
So we're going to go back to you for the next question, Kerry. Why do you think you might do a better job, or why do you think you will do a better job on the court than the person that you're running against?
Judge campaigns aren't negative. I mean, they're not supposed to be negative, and you don't comment on the other people. What you do is you comment on yourself. And my view is that I've had 32 years of in-the-trenches experience with clients, doing a broad variety of cases, and I've immersed in my whole career in legal research, legal analysis, legal writing. I've represented sexual abuse victims, small business owners, wrongful death victims. I've represented the class of plaintiffs who are suing their insurance companies, represented a class of plaintiffs who are suing their oil and gas companies when they're royalty holders. I've done many regulatory appeals, represented the state of New Mexico, the University of New Mexico, and I've had such a broad experience in so many areas, including criminal law. I did appellate work for the Public Defender's Office for 2 years, doing nothing but criminal appeals, that I know I can hit the ground running, that I've seen most of the issues that come before the Court of Appeals, and that I've immersed myself in the trenches with these people, so I know the stress that litigation puts on these people, and I know the necessity to try to turn opinions out as quickly and economically and correctly as possible. But it's that wealth of experience in 32 years of experience that I think allows me to do the job very effectively. I will put those qualifications proudly up against anyone's. I'm an appellate practice specialist. There are only 8 lawyers in the state who have that specialty, which is a designation given by the Board of Legal Specialization. And I field numerous calls each year from appellate attorneys and trial attorneys wanting, advice on how to argue before the court, how to write briefs, how to do research, how to structure issues. And I feel that since my whole career has been an appellate, of an appellate nature, that I'm ready to step into the position.
So Miles, can you talk a little bit about your experience and qualifications and your time already on the court and
Sure,
why
I'm
that
happy
might...
to. Judicial service matters. I'm in my 4th year now of being on a court that works well together, that is well constituted, that resolves 1,000 cases for New Mexican litigants, most of whom are human beings, every year. I've written over 100 opinions on our court, a lot of those formal, all areas of law. I've participated in over somewhere between 700 and 800 or 900 appellate decisions. I think that incumbency matters. And when you're looking to who to support in a judicial race, one of the hallmarks that you're going to look to is how's that court doing? How's it functioning? How are our 10 members working together? I was endorsed by the Las Cruces Sun News, and one of the things I really liked about that endorsement was its observation that the Court of Appeals is working well. That speaks well not only of me, but of my colleagues on the court. I've been endorsed also in this race by the Santa Fe New Mexican and the Albuquerque Journal. It's rare to get the 3 largest papers in the state. And it means I've done a good job. It means that I have contributed to our court, despite my having to also campaign around the state. It means that the decisions I've made have been well received. The ones I've written, I would note there has never been a single dissent from one of my colleagues on. And I think that to upend courts to replace judges when those judges have done a good job doesn't well serve New Mexicans.
So I know that it's bad practice or perhaps bad manners to ask judges or potential judges about their opinions on certain issues, but I'd like for you both to talk about them. We'll start with you, Miles. Tell me an instance where you feel like the Court of Appeals really served New Mexicans, really functioned the way it was supposed to.
Well, the Court of Appeal, the vast majority of our decisions are unanimous decisions. I think we serve New Mexicans in every single case that we decide, to be very candid with you. That doesn't mean that we're always right, and there's a Supreme Court above us that will tell us when we're wrong. But as an intermediate appellate court, our job is to make decisions for district court litigants that have lost and have chosen to exercise their constitutional right of appeal. Specific cases, I'll point to several that I've written. I'm a big fan of my decision in a case involving San Miguel County and the Pecos River, which encouraged private organizations and entities to engage in the protection of beautiful public lands. If we wait for the public to be the only source of such protection, it's going to result in lands that aren't well protected. That's a decision that I've written that I think served New Mexicans well. Certainly the decisions we make in criminal cases are critically important to the state. We're determining whether convictions are to be affirmed or reversed. We're determining whether trials have to happen again that have already happened. We're determining whether victims are coming back to court to tell their story one more time. I think we serve New Mexico very well every single day.
Kerry, can you talk about some specific instances where you feel like the court is having an important role in setting precedent and guiding policy for New Mexico?
Right, I will, and I do want to say one thing about incumbency if I can.
Certainly.
Justice Judge Vigil, Judge Fry, Judge Sutton, Judge Bustamante were all non-judges with no appellate judicial experience when they went onto the court, and they're functioning well on the court. I think experience and qualifications is the key to be able to move into the court, and the people, of course, get to elect their judges. But I made new law in a case in front of the Court of Appeals, which I think was very important. It was a case out of Las Cruces where our client had been sexually abused at the county detention center by a guard. we took the position that I'm sorry, she had been at a psychiatric hospital and was sexually abused by a custodian there. He had previously worked at the county detention center and had a record of sexual abuse. The county, however, positively recommended him to the psychiatric hospital. We brought a cause of action on her part saying that recommendation was negligent because they knew that he had had a history of sexual abuse. The trial court did not go our way, but I argued it successfully in the New Mexico Supreme Court and created new law regarding an employer's duty, if they're going to give a recommendation, to give an accurate recommendation. They don't have to give one, but if they're going to, they can't, for instance, omit the negative. So that changed the law of New Mexico, and I was very happy because for this person who was abused, it meant an ultimate recovery.
I can see that that's important. So both of you have talked in public before about the qualities that you think make a good judge, and not surprisingly, we hear the word honesty and we hear the word fairness from both of you. I'd like to start with you, Kerry. What's another characteristic that you have that you believe voters should recognize as making you good judge material?
Well, in my career, I've done a lot of complex litigation, having to work with a lot of parties, work with a lot of lawyers. And I've always tried to bring fairness and temperament into it, an even keel, because I find that litigants expect their lawyers to be, some of them expect their lawyers to be bulldogs, but the most rational of them expect their lawyers to be rational because they want a quick and fair resolution to their case. So I think temperament, evenness. No one wants a judge who has awakened on the wrong side of the bed. They want a judge who is consistent and constant in temperament, because that's what it's all about. You want to know what you're getting. And I think that even keeledness and that ability to collaboratively work with other people is critical.
How about you, Miles? What's another characteristic you hold?
Once you get past the basics, they're basic qualifications. For an appellate judge, you need to be able to write well. You need to be able to listen. There's 3 of us on every case, and you got to know when it's not your turn to talk and when it's time to listen. But the hallmark characteristic, the most important thing for successful judicial service, is independence. It is freedom from bias. It is freedom from affiliations. It is freedom from pre-existing ideas in your head that would affect how you rule. That's what makes the best judges stand out. They're not always predictable. They are argued to by attorneys carefully, because those attorneys know that if they're supposed to win, they're going to, and if they're supposed to lose, they're going to lose also. I think that independence fosters the capacity to make the right decision.
Thank you. Well, early voting is already going on. Election day is November 4th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and we hope you get out and make your voice heard.